Hi, this is Michael Uslan. You're listening to Batman on Film.
I'm vengeance.
I have given a name to my pain.
The Batman.
Always waiting for some Batman to save you.
It's simple. We kill the Bat of Gotham. I'm Batman.
Hey now, welcome to episode 57 of the Batman on Film Social Hour. I am the founder of Batman on Film, Bill, Jett, Ramey, and with me we're going to kind of finish up. Hopefully we'll finish up here. This is part 2 of our Batman discussion, or a discussion on the Batman movie, not Batman in general. It's senior BOF contributor Ryan Lauer. Ryan, you're back, ready to talk some Batman. How are you?
I'm good. Energized.
How
for
many
the Batman.
How many viewings have you got in so far of the Batman?
Did number 5
Okay.
over the weekend.
All right.
Second in IMAX. And this wasn't the full reason. I think I told you, and when we talked with Mr. Uslan on the last one too, is I want to get an IMAX at least one more time before it pulls. And they did the whole I think Bill Sienkiewicz poster
Oh yeah,
that they gave away. So that was pretty.
that's the
pretty
IMAX
nice.
poster.
Yes, it is.
It's awesome.
I think they released this right before the movie came out too, of just like, hey, here's some IMAX art. And then IMAX had they did a tweet last week that said beginning March 11th, if you go see the Batman in an IMAX theater, you can see, or you can get this poster while supplies last, participating, blah blah blah.
I've had to, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and I had to go and I had to ask them because they were pretty frazzled and pretty busy. But this 35-year-old nerd's like, excuse me, do you have the Batman IMAX posters that we were supposed to be giving? And they're like, yeah, and they had a whole box.
Big crowd.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was good. The middle section, which is the biggest portion of the IMAX theater. I mean, save when we got our tickets, there was maybe like 5 scattered solo seats available. Otherwise, that big chunk in the middle was completely full. And then, good amounts throughout the rest of the theater. So yeah, it was a good crowd. It was a big crowd.
I've bumped back my IMAX to Wednesday, which I think through Fandango, looking for tickets, is the last day in IMAX, if not Thursday. So I got to get it in. I did go yesterday to an XD screening to my local theater, and I went with Jake, and we were kind of a little late, not late to the film, but we got there. There was a 1 p.m. screening. We got there. We pulled in like at 12:58, but I knew there was going to be freaking 20 minutes of commercials and trailers. So, but the parking lot was packed, and my particular screening was packed. In fact, the only seats available, I had to cancel my IMAX. I got the credit, and then at the last minute, not last minute, but yesterday morning, I booked for the 1 p.m. and the only 2 seats that were left, unless you sit in those, first couple of rows from the very, very, very front, was the very first. I mean, the first row of the main block. And it was, so yeah. I mean, I looked around and there was like no seats except for that. I mean, there were probably 6, 8 seats taken in that very middle of that very front, because that was all that was available for folks. And then when we left, it was about 4:30. There was a actual line. I haven't seen that in a while. There was a line waiting to get in to the screenings. So
because I'm a dork. But like those cases too, it's almost like when you walk in the theater and you almost like hands on the hip, just look around and smile, like proud. Like,
yeah,
that's right.
Like I have nothing
loves
to
the Batman.
It's like I have something to do with it. I have nothing to do with it, whatsoever.
I didn't do this, but we're all really enjoying the Batman.
Yes.
All right.
So, speaking of it having a good weekend, I mean it took in 66 million domestic. Weekend number 2, and only dropped. That's and I heard on the when y'all did the BOF podcast last week, it talked a little bit. I mean, y'all made some predictions, you and Garrett and Haas, on what y'all thought weekend 2 would do, and most of y'all were around 50%, right?
Yeah,
Drop.
I was gonna say, I think, yeah. I need to re-listen to what we said, but yeah, all the three of us were.
I think you said you went
there
like
in that area.
I think you said a notch below 50% drop.
Garrett, I think, said maybe like 47% drop, which I think would have put what, like 68, 69
I mean, y'all were still all like,
we were in the 60s.
Okay. So it was negative, minus 50.7, 66 million. It sits at 238.5 million domestic right now.
So let's for maybe not that I'm some kind of box office expert, but really quick, if somebody's listening, why is that such a good deal that the second weekend is 50% drop?
Event films like the Batman, Spider-Man No Way Home, you know the drill. They usually are very front loaded because everybody goes opening weekend or the biggest crowds, and then there's a 60% plus 70% drop weekend number 2. So for the Batman to only drop around half, that's pretty good, pretty damn good.
Yeah,
that speaks to word of mouth, that people are coming out and saying, yeah, you got to go see that, it really speaks to word of mouth. It speaks to, we'll have some legs. And then you got people like me are going, I'm going to see it again, but it really is an indication of, to me, of positive word of mouth.
And I think I saw online, and this is just going back the past few theatrical Batman movies, that it's infinitely better than the second weekend for Batman versus Superman. That's better than The Dark Knight Rises, the second weekend. I think The Dark Knight had just a little less of a drop off.
Yeah.
So if you put it in those terms, I mean, it's there with The Dark Knight on holdover, on people thinking, I need to go see this again, just like they did with The Dark Knight. So this is all good news, really good news.
Yes. And it's right there. It's A- cinema score. So it's just a notch below the Dark Knight trilogy.
A-, just like Batman Forever, Bill.
Yeah.
How about that?
I've had to explain that to people, that Batman Forever was very popular in 1995, y'all. It really was. Okay. So it gets unfairly lopped in with Batman and Robin. Like they both were disasters, and they weren't. And Batman Forever was not a disaster. It was a huge hit. Okay. That's about Batman history. Batman on film history lesson again for the day. Staying on box office just for a moment. It's at 463.2 million worldwide. So it's going to do $500 million here pretty shortly, this week, probably. And this will be a boost. It opens in China on the 18th. So that's Friday.
Okay.
Correct?
Yeah.
It's like the biggest movie market in the world now.
So they're excited. Warner Brothers is probably pretty
You know what
excited.
I'm interested? This is what I want to know. someone out there listening or listening in another country besides the United States. So when a film is released like in China or like Spain, where English is not the main language, can you see it in the original English version and a dubbed native language version, or is it just in the dubbed native language version? I should ask Lee that. Lee's in Italy.
Yeah.
Did he have to see it and with the, dubbed in Italian? Or
Well,
there's got to be English screenings, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, because I've actually seen what theater it may have been, to look at tickets down there in Texas, and there was something I came across that had was it subtitles or Spanish dubbed, and that was an option for a theater screening.
Okay.
And I hadn't come across that. I haven't seen that before. But then there was a new trailer that was released for China to build up for the new release, for it coming out this week. That was online last week, and it was in English and just had Chinese subtitles on the bottom.
Okay.
So
I would be interested if someone could, shoot me an email or just hit me up on Twitter or whatever. I'd like to know that. It's interesting. All right. So I'm not going to make any predictions where it's going to end up, but it's, I think there's a good chance it passes domestically. Aquaman, Wonder Woman, DVS, Man of Steel, and Justice League 17. The highest domestic is Wonder Woman at 410 million domestic. And right now it sits at 238. So
I think around Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna pass Aquaman and Justice League 2017 for sure.
Another highlight of going to see it yesterday.
Oh, it already did Justice League. That's right. It already passed Justice League.
Past Justice League. It's creeping up on Man of Steel. It's like, 92 million off of BVS. It's only in week 2. I think it's gonna pass all those domestic. I don't know if it's gonna do a billion worldwide like Aquaman.
Yeah.
Aquaman had a huge overseas box office, but it's going to do really good. It's already done good. I mean, we got a conga line going in Burbank, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Got the Penguins. The Penguin series just got the series order.
I don't know why I thought you were gonna say like a conga line, like the Penguin. They were all just wobbling. Wobbling.
Yeah.
In a line
well, they
together.
might
Why
have
not?
been. Who knows? They might have done the Penguin waddle in that conga line.
It's all good news.
Yeah, it is. So let's talk about the Batman and relationships. So we decided we're gonna cut. We were talking last week, and we said, okay, I could go on and on and on. Let's cut this down to about an hour and a half. We'll do a part 2, and then we decided we'll talk about the relationships, and that'll bring up some other stuff. So I thought there were 3 main relationships in the film. There was Bruce Alfred. I think Batman Catwoman is probably number 1. If it's not Gordon Batman, they're probably equal. They're pretty damn close.
Yeah.
And then there was kind of like a sub right underneath that. In the next tier would be Batman and the Riddler. I'll explain that when we get to it. And then also Carmine Falcone and Selina. And just FYI, if you haven't seen the film yet, better cut off right now because we're going full discussion. All right. So, we could also say there's a relationship between Batman and Bruce Wayne.
A little bit, yes.
Okay. Let's just talk about that real quick because that won't take long.
Okay.
Full on Batman for what? 90% of this film?
Yeah. Awesome. By the way.
Maybe, yeah. Full. I mean, he is full. He's not Bruce Wayne, really.
No.
Hardly at any point in the film. So you get that's the ego influence where there is no, they haven't made that that deal yet, Bruce Wayne and the Batman, to where they can coexist. The Batman is 100%
Yeah, so I was
the
thinking.
personality.
So I know I had asked direct comic influences
Mm-hmm.
last time, and I didn't use ego as a choice because the choices that I had were like blunt, like a line of dialogue or this version of Alfred or something reminding me of a story. But ego, I didn't think Reeves leaned into it as much as I thought he was going to, in the sense of bluntly taking something from ego.
Yeah.
In which, thinking about it now, of course he didn't lift from the page Bruce having a conversation with Batman.
Mm-hmm.
And that wasn't happening. But the idea of itself, if you sit back and think about it more, I could see much more of that idea of Bruce and Batman, their relationship together, and leaning more into it. Probably the next movie, as he's trying to figure out, it's going to be more of a mission for him to be Bruce Wayne and figure out how to be.
Because it'll come out. Let's talk about Bruce and Alfred, because it's a cold relationship on Bruce's part. There's times when I'm like, when he tells him, "You're not my father," at one point. And then he even, when Alfred tries to give him the cufflinks with the W on them, the Wayne emblem, he says, "Are you Wayne? Are you Wayne, Alfred?" Some kind of almost condescending. And he's like, "Your father gave me these." And then Bruce is like, "Oh, I was an asshole. That was a asshole statement I made," basically, kind of in his expression.
The first time Alfred comes down and sees him,
Mm-hmm.
I almost feel like, when Alfred asks him a question, Bruce almost seems a little annoyed, I think, in his response. It's a very cold response, which I think really helped set up that where this movie's relationship of Bruce and Alfred is right away, how this is much different from anything we've had before.
Yeah. And watching the movie, it's all part of Bruce or Batman's arc, Bruce Wayne's arc in the film. I really focused in when I was watching it yesterday I focused in on quite a bit, but I really paid super close attention to the Batman Alfred scene in the hospital. It's even better when you start trying to look at the little things, and Pattinson's acting, his facial, there's points where it looks like he's about to break down, and let the sadness, the fear that he had about losing Alfred come out.
Yeah.
He holds back. He doesn't shed a tear, but he does admit, he says, "I thought I'd mastered all that. I'm not afraid to die." But I thought I never want to feel that. I never want to feel that again, losing someone I care about. And Alfred stands out, when's the last time that someone has extended a hand or a hug to Bruce and Bruce is reciprocated? And then Bruce takes his hand and Alfred, smiles at him. And that's the last we see of Alfred in the film. But you would expect, and the next one, it'll start moving into a more traditional Batman Alfred relationship.
One better, is that also the last we see Bruce in this too? Is he Batman the rest of the way?
I think so.
Yeah. All right.
I think so, because he sees the bat signal. And that's, really kind of when the third act kind of starts. That's when he goes and he Selina has Kinsey. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So there you go.
So that's any last. Well, I don't say last because we'll talk about it some more. I'm sure. In the months to come, weeks to come. But Bruce Alfred.
That's the a good payoff moment. It closes the book on that arc for this movie, and also gets us, we can be looking forward to where that goes the next one. And next time around, we start to see more of the status quo Bruce Alfred relationship. I do love Alfred's attempts during the movie. So you already said the cufflinks, but then Alfred helping him with the riddles and the like figuring out the code and message that the Riddler does too. I do. And I think that's how we can be sold on this version of Alfred so quickly too, even though there isn't a ton of Bruce and Alfred, because you see him taking those steps and he's helping Batman, with the riddles and stuff too. So it leads us a very good impression of Alfred.
Yeah. So it's like, I can do, he's capable, more than capable, especially because of his military and intelligence background. But Bruce in this film, he's on his own. He doesn't want really, he takes what Alfred has given him, but it's not like they're not like he's not Batman's partner. And Alfred becomes Batman's partner, traditionally. So I look forward to that and the next film, and maybe even Alfred helps him become more Bruce Wayne. You got to do this, Bruce, because he's, you see how awkward he is even going out and going to that funeral. Yeah. He's not even going to pay respects. He's going because he's full Batman mode, and he's thinking serial killers like to, come witness the aftermath of what they've done. So the Riddler may show up. That's why he went,
Yeah.
All right. So what you want to do next? Batman Catwoman or Batman Selina, excuse me, or Batman Gordon?
Let's do Batman Gordon.
Okay. They're truly partners, right?
Yep.
They only trust each other. The most Batman Gordon together we've ever seen on screen in a Batman film. Would you agree with all that?
Yeah. And here I was thinking that almost feeling like, I don't know how they'll do this better in the Dark Knight trilogy. And we're only one movie in, so I'm not going to do I won't rank either one, but I mean, this is a good chapter 1 of their working relationship.
Yeah.
Because everything that you just said of their partners, they only trust each other. The investigating the what do I want to say? The actual the crime scenes together, but then also when they end up at the orphanage, and so they're investigating with unknown what they're heading into, and they're together with that too, and the meeting up at the Bat Signal. I love. I mean, it's of course it's performances from each of them. Jeffrey Wright did even better than I thought he was gonna, and I already thought he was gonna do great. But just I don't know, like good cop, bad shit cop, what a duo.
And I mean, that's really, I was about to bring up when they're interrogating the Penguin, that, and him saying, what are you going to do? Once you do harmonize, you're going to harmonize now, because they're in sync with the questions.
Yeah.
That's a great scene. That's even that gets better each time. Colin Farrell's great, So very classic Batman Gordon in terms of working together to solve a case, both in detective mode. Yeah.
So where we just talked about Bruce and Alfred had at least like an arc.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't one for Batman and Gordon, was there?
Not really, I don't think.
Okay. And I'm perfectly happy, overjoyed with that, and I hope that continues.
Yeah.
I mean, we got a lot more of that this time because there's a lot more Batman than Bruce Wayne in this movie. And if next movie they have more Bruce Wayne, then that, it just means, less screen time as Batman, which means less screen time as Batman and Gordon together. But I do hope we get a nice chunk of this carrying over because it all worked.
I would say, I think the next step would be they become friends, not just partners.
We learn more about Gordon,
maybe
off the clock,
perhaps
little home life.
Yeah. But right. I think Reeves and company nailed it with Batman Gordon.
Yeah. And maybe the arc you could say, led by Gordon, is look at that opening scene with the mayor, Batman walking in all the stairs and the guy even trying to stop him, but yet by the end, then they bring Falcone out and Gordon says, not all of them work for you.
Yeah.
And I guess Batman's working with all of them now. So maybe that's the,
Batman,
that's the arc.
Batman's bringing Falcone. I mean, he's the one bringing him out of the Iceberg Lounge.
So maybe that's that is like Batman therapy. We had a breakthrough of maybe that's it now. Of the GCPD is more trustworthy now of Batman.
It'll be interesting to see how much Gotham's, the police force, the district attorney's office, all of that is how much of the corruption will still linger. How many of those corrupt guys are gonna, what happens to Kinsey? I do think, I will say this, and really I had brought up before that maybe in that Penguin series, Maroni returns, and he's one of the characters that might challenge for that power vacuum.
Yeah.
I think with how does he get out of prison? it would be easy to write in and say, well, his conviction was overturned because of the whole, Falcone. It was, they said it was putting him in jail was a kind of a bullshit operation, because of Falcone being, he's the rat and he's the source. And it was to eliminate Maroni as a competitor in the underworld of organized crime in Gotham. So not trying to write the Penguin for.
No, as we talked last time, they did a lot of, I think that there's a lot of great writing in the sense of, for the story, they didn't pin themselves in a corner of, they're pretty open to do whatever. And like you just said with Maroni, it wasn't that Maroni's been killed. We heard that name a lot and we never saw him. Like there's a couple clips and like a news reporter or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, Maroni's alive. So if they need to bring, if they want to use him and bring him into the mix somehow, they definitely can. And
he's got at some point, he's got to throw acid in Harvey Dent's face,
he
right?
Does. Yeah, he does.
Okay.
Which I don't know that we brought that up, but I mean, the DA's office yet again. I mean, vacancy. There's vacancy at the DA's office.
You didn't see Harvey Dent down in the 44 below. He wasn't up to any shenanigans.
No. And I think I don't know if you and I have said this on here, but I mean, that opens up for Harvey Dent. I would love a full movie of, there you go. If you want to expand that Gordon and Batman relationship, you bring Harvey into it too. No Two-Face. We just get a full on Harvey Dent only. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
And be different.
Yeah. I I love the Dark Knight and the way Harvey. I mean,
Mhm.
it's kind of Harvey's arc, you know. Harvey
Mhm.
has the arc in the Dark Knight, but yes, I'd like full on Harvey Dent for a picture, a movie or two,
Mhm.
and then I think it makes it even. And you really like him a lot,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It makes Two-Face
I
more
think of Batman the
tragic.
Animated Series, the Pretty Poison. I think that was
Mhm.
Poison Ivy's first episode, and I mean she's dating Harvey Dent. No Two-Face in that one. We don't get. I don't believe we get any kind of big bad Harv moments
Mhm.
or anything either. So it's like we just get a whole episode of just Harvey Dent, and
Yeah.
that's pretty fun to do sometimes. So, anyways, that was a side tangent.
All right, Batman Selina. It's kind of the heart of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I would say she's the most Zoe Kravitz as Selina, most fleshed out Selina Kyle that we've had in a Batman movie.
Mm-hmm.
Really, I mean, there's not a lot of exposition, but you really kind of like know by the time the movie's over with, you know all about her.
Yeah, I like that too, because I think we would have felt that, and it could have bogged it down. Not
She
would,
wasn't
could have.
just she was just wasn't one note Catwoman. You
Mm-mm.
know, that's so easy to do.
What a favorite part, and I think it's very subtle that we see of their relationship is after the Thomas Wayne stuff comes to light, and um Bruce is down in his cave and he sees Selina's got the contact and it says, "Where are you?" And he says, like, his voice is totally Bruce Wayne when he says Selina,
Yeah.
and then she talks, and then it's almost as if he then kind of, oh, I gotta dip back into, and he changes it and he's back to like his Batman voice at
Yeah.
first. And we brought that up really quick on the podcast with Garrett and Haas of, I mean, it showed a little bit of his vulnerability with her.
Mm-hmm.
Which, yes, we get vulnerability with Alfred in the hospital scene, but I think this is with her, it's a different way. He's different. She can get him kind of like to calm down in a sense and talk
Mm-hmm.
throughout.
It's different. By the time there's an arc in that relationship too, because in the beginning, when he sends her on that undercover mission in the 44 below with, she's got the contacts, the lenses,
Mm-hmm.
and she's like, you really don't really care what happens to me. And he's like, look at me. And you think he's going to say, it's going to be all right. Okay. I got this. You'll be safe. Okay. I got you. He just like, yeah, looks good.
That's gotten a laugh every time, every
Yeah.
screening. And I think that's good.
And by the end, especially, and we'll bring up this little sub relationship by the end when she's going to kill Falcone, and she says he's got to pay, and he's like, you don't have to pay with him.
You've paid enough.
You paid, yeah. And she gives up the gun, and he's, not only does that go by his, he's not an executioner. She does, he tells her, you do this, you become like them beforehand. So I really liked it. I don't want to say I buy it. Yeah, I will say it. I bought into this relationship, this Bruce Selina, Batman Selina, more than I did in Batman Returns and even Dark Knight Rises. And it's not saying I didn't buy into those. I was really invested in this one.
Their intro at the Iceberg Lounge, when she comes walking in and she stops, looks at him, him at her. And then I do love for, that's a prolonged stare of each other. Something about each other has them just like, whoa. And then a quick cut to Penguin, who's just sitting there and he's like looking at both of them.
Yeah.
It's okay, honey. Vengeance doesn't bite.
Yeah. And maybe for me, it's because maybe Selina was more fleshed out and maybe cared about her as a character a little bit more than the other two incarnations. And I did buy into, I mean, when Bruce is with Selina at the end of The Dark Knight Rises, I'm like, oh, phew,
Yeah. And that
and I was glad.
though,
Yeah.
that of the consistency in Selina Kyle, Catwoman,
Mm-hmm.
like how good they are. Because I know Batman Returns isn't exactly your favorite, but you've always championed Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman
I think it's
performance.
is great.
Yeah.
Not not get out of Batman Returns, but not a fan of Mousy Selina, secretary, fall out of a window, several stories, and magically become Catwoman. But her performance is great.
Her performance, the variations in the 60s series is really good, and obviously Anne Hathaway was really good. And then now we've got Zoe Kravitz. So the character itself, I mean, I don't know, that maybe the character itself is just a gift for actresses, maybe. Because when done right, like it's great, and for the most part in Batman movies and stuff, Catwoman, that character's been done right.
Yeah.
And this is, I don't know. I mean, Hathaway's was really good. I was gonna say this one maybe has the most. She has the biggest effect on him. But I mean, you can argue in Rises that she's kind of what brings him out of his retirement. So that's a pretty, that has a huge effect too. So the backward, and she saves him. I mean, at the end, that's a pretty big deal. And we're talking relationships, so therefore it's emotions and stuff, but just kind of can't say enough good things between that and this movie.
Yeah.
And that character's impact on Batman and on Bruce.
Even though she leaves Gotham at the end, I'm quite sure we see Selina Catwoman again at some point.
Yeah. Matt Reeves is a huge character. He knows that Catwoman, how important she is to the universe. And she can just have a triumphant return after she goes and fights crime in Bloodhaven.
Correct. I like to see that as a HBO Max deal.
Catwoman series.
Yeah.
Whatever
or would you
Matt Reeves wants to do, I'm okay.
Okay. Or would you? Okay, if you had your preference, would you rather? And you can't have both.
Okay.
That's the stipulation in this question. If you could have a Catwoman series with Zoe Kravitz set after the Batman, or to see her return in the sequel or one of the sequels, maybe the one after the next, which one would you rather?
Her in the sequel.
Okay.
I think Penguin, it seems so natural of where his series could go. Whereas Catwoman's would be it seems almost a little unclear. She's leaving. She's going to come back.
Oh, she's
eventually.
not. Yeah. Okay. We see her become Catwoman, and then we see her next time she's full on Catwoman in the film.
She's got the money to update her suit. She needs to. That I would like a little bit of that kind of mystique and mystery of what she's off doing. Preserve that until we see her again on the big screen.
Okay. Speaking of the money that that Falcone owes her. So there is a relationship between Carmine and Selina that he is her father. And I love it the way, Bruce thinks she's up to nefarious shenanigans, with Falcone and the Penguin. And he goes, why does he owe you? Tell me. He's my father, and he takes a step back and okay, So that's straight out of Tim Sale and what am I doing here?
Jeff Loeb.
Jeff Loeb, yes. It's Jeff. I want to say Jeff Johns every time, but yes, Jeff Loeb.
Jeff Johns.
Long Halloween, When in Rome, all that. So that's part of the Long Halloween influence, Long Halloween world influence.
So question for you.
Yeah.
First time that we see him, first of all, I love the fact that we don't get a clear look at him at first. I think it does help build up the Carmine Falcone character, and that we see him a little bit in silhouette through the contact lenses in 44 Below. And then it's like we jump out of those, but we see, it's a blurry over his shoulder looking at Selina. And then back to the contact lens. Like they do that. They don't do a full on Carmine frontal, but he says to her, haven't seen you here in a while. It's like from him seeing her and her seeing him that like there's something there. At the end, she says, do you remember Maria Kyle? And she calls him dad or whatever. And I couldn't tell like the first viewing when he says dad and he turns around and it's like, what? I don't know if that's like what'd you call me?
I don't think
it's
I think that he knew that he had a kid with Maria Kyle. And he talks about, how old was she when she said she 8? Was she 8 when her mother died?
7
or 8? Yeah.
7. Okay.
And she talks about, she would bring me to the club because she worked there. And I would see him and he scared the shit out of me, she says. So he knew this kid was his, because when they took her away she's an orphan basically, okay, because she's raised by her mother. They took her away to foster care. He didn't do anything. He let her go. I don't think until the very end when she goes to kill him that he realizes at that point this is the little girl who was my daughter. That's my daughter.
So he calls her beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So to him, this is just one of the workers in the club that he's run into a lot.
And then she must have when she goes there and she says she wants to see him, and he says, tell him that she's going by a different name. And I tried to catch it and I don't want to butcher it or come up with, but she tells the guy, telling that that so-and-so's here.
Let's start with a B.
I think so.
I can't remember right now either.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember.
So I'm glad she got the money, and I'm glad that Batman prevented her from killing him. So that's where I'm at on that relationship. And I like the whole Long Halloween world nod.
And did you notice the consistency here of Carmine in that we hear the phone call. Gordon says he's strangling her. Selina's mom was from somebody, they didn't know who at that point. She says it, she was strangled to death. And then Carmine is on top of Selina trying to strangle her.
Oh, he also says, just like your mother. So
yeah,
he killed.
So, I mean, there's a consistency here.
He killed her mother.
That's what he does.
Yeah,
he's a strangler. Bastard.
Yeah, he is. Son of a bitch. Son of a bitch.
Son
All
of a
right.
bitch. Real son of a bitch.
Batman the Riddler. This is a Riddler, Edward Nashton. This is a one-sided relationship, right?
Mhm.
There is a relationship because we ultimately find out that the Riddler, in his mind, Batman's a hero to him. I mean, like his mask, him being masked is inspired by Batman, and he thinks they're going to be pals, even after it's all said and done. And that's why he gets caught, is so he can. The final part of his plan is so he, when he detonates the explosives to flood Gotham, or part of Gotham. I did notice that there are different parts of Gotham, so he couldn't have flooded every single borough. There's like, man, even where Wayne Tower is, he travels across the bridge on his motorcycle from where he is, like in that Gotham downtown Gotham Square area, like Times Square. So to get to Wayne Tower, he travels across a bridge. So anyway, and then he even said, the Riddler tells him, you're part of this. How am I part of this? You'll see. And it's like two things. It's kind of I don't want to call it a bait and switch, but it plays into the narrative of the audience and Batman thinking that the Riddler knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman. And then when he calls, he's asking for him at Gotham and Batman goes, that's where we find out what the Riddler thought the relationship was between Batman and himself.
And someone had told me too, I don't remember if I told you this last time, of how cool, fun it is after that first viewing, and you see that that's what the Riddler thought all along. It's like, we're partners. Then when you rewatch the movie and you understand and you look from his perception when the letters are left for Batman.
Yeah.
It doesn't change the entire movie, but it's kind of fun to think about that. Okay, now from a different point of view, how does this seem?
Yeah.
And that's fun.
And on Batman's point of view, there ain't no damn relationship. They're not pals, are they?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
You're a psychopath.
And I also watched it in closely watched it. It is not, to me, tell me if I'm wrong, it is not ambiguous that the Riddler does not know Batman is Bruce Wayne. That is clear in that scene. I would say, yes, it's a little, I don't even, it's even subtle. If you really, the way the whole thing is orchestrated.
I don't think he knows.
No, he does. No.
And I think that scene, the front half of that scene, maybe the first 2/3, they lead you to think that, and then he does a turn when he says the only one that got away.
He's saying Bruce Wayne, because he is upset and kind of, saying to Batman, well, we got the rest of, we didn't get the big one, but we got the rest of them, didn't we? And he's using, like, Bruce Wayne is like where he thinks Batman is his partner and his buddy, and they're the same. Bruce Wayne is like his arch nemesis because they were both orphans, but Bruce Wayne, because he had money, came from a rich family, lived in a tower overlooking the park, as he says, and he's stuck in old Wayne Manor in an orphanage.
Which I don't know if it's in the prequel novel, but that at the orphanage, the video that's playing, and right at the end, and you see on the right side of the screen is little Edward just staring at the Waynes. And I feel like there's another part too that it when it's focused on Thomas, that I think you can kind of see him a little bit too. And then you have the picture also. Little things in it, but when you spot it, it's kind of cool to piece together. But then to add to the partners part, I mean, he's the one who had to have told all the Riddler followers, your vengeance, right? Because then you have the hooded guy at the end, when he's unmasked and he says, "I'm vengeance," and that works on the level of Batman's arc. That's his huge turning point. But also, it totally supports that Riddler thought he and Batman is like, "Hey, this is my partner, vengeance. All right, we're all vengeance. We're all out for justice."
So that's the dichotomy of it, is that the Riddler thinks him and Batman are partners and they're the same, that he's doing the same as Batman is doing, essentially. But at the same time, he despises Bruce Wayne, because Bruce Wayne was everything in his mind. Bruce Wayne is everything that he isn't. Even though they were both orphans, they had, completely different fates because of money and corruption. And that's why you pay for sins of the father. You're going to get yours, Bruce Wayne, because you had money and you're paying for what your father did.
Yeah. Best buds.
Then
he's got a new friend now.
He's got a new friend. I was about to say the same thing. He found him a new buddy in Arkham.
Yeah.
Okay. Real quick, and then we got a couple of questions from readers / listeners.
All right.
The relationship between Batman and Gotham. There's one there that's different between in the beginning and then at the end of the film. Yes. Okay. What's your thoughts?
I love totally fits in line with the character, but making it different than what we've seen before too. In that it's almost like I don't need a city that is scared of me, but a city that looks at me for hope.
They're scared of him. Everyone is scared of the Batman in the beginning.
Yeah.
And that's the purpose.
And he thought that's
the way to do it. Like. Yeah.
And then that leads into the journey that we go on through the whole movie, to where criminals will still feel scared of him, but it's like the good people, the Ryans and Bills of Gotham will be like, we've got a high-ranking person on our side.
Yeah,
we've got somebody in our corner.
Yes.
And there's a little bit when he says with the hope, and his speech at the end of vengeance doesn't change. I've had an effect, just not the one I was hoping for, or something, or looking, or something like that. And he says that vengeance doesn't change the past. And so, all of that, it's like, that's telling us where we're at now by the end of the movie with this character.
And it's the symbolic of that to me. And you can tell me if I'm full of crap, but when he's in the flood waters in Gotham Garden, which is flooding, and he reaches out to those people, you can see the look on their face. They're all afraid of him. And it's the kid that takes the mayor's kid, the mayor who gets killed in the beginning of the movie, who Bruce has this connection with because of the murder of his father, obviously. And the kid takes his hand. That's kind of like, to me, that's like the people, represent the people of Gotham. And then the mayor is next. And that's like the leadership of Gotham. Looking to Batman.
You're not full of shit.
Okay.
Because I thought more so of just the kid is just, I mean, you think with kids, they're, more pure. They're not corrupt or anything. It's just a kid. He's like, hey, I need help. I'm looking for help. And he just takes his hand. But I focus more on the mayor in the sense of she's just won the election. She's going to be a high ranking official in the city. And she just accepted his hand for help.
And they follow him.
That was symbolic.
And they follow him out. He's as the light. He's the light now, not necessarily always the Dark Knight. He's always going to be the Dark Knight to the bad guys. He's still going to be in the shadows. But like you say, the people of Gotham, the good people of Gotham know that the Batman is a hero for them.
As he's carrying the woman out and people sitting there see him, and then that follows up with the news on the TV in which the lower third even says Batman helped save hundreds of lives. So the word's spreading.
And she, when he puts her down, she doesn't want to let go of him. And he kind of pats her like it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Whew, here we go.
Hey, I said I'd get hurt if I could have Batman save me. Sure.
Yeah.
Put my hand on his shoulder and be like, I'm with you, Batman.
All right. Questions. Let's see. Okay. Omar wants to know if the green liquid that Batman injects to himself is venom.
Okay. My thoughts before I saw you answer this in the Facebook group. Somebody asked the same comment. It can be if Matt Reeves wants it to be, because they never said what it was. We had to figure it out for ourselves. I don't think that's going to lead into like a Venom kind of story, because Batman got an instant charge, beat the hell out of that guy, and then Gordon had to stop him. Okay, cool. And then it's like, it took him, then he was and then he saw Gordon's face, and then he saw Selina's face. I don't think that's going to lead to like the Venom addiction storyline at all. So to me, it's like, it is adrenaline, but if you wanted to say that was Venom and boosted him up, like, you can.
I'm with you. I don't think it's something he's going to take. It's going to turn him into an 8-foot tall Hulk, right? Like Bane in the comic books. But, if you want it to be Venom and Matt Reeves is a fan, and maybe that's just his kind of nod to Venom, that's fine with me. But I think if it is, then Venom is it's a potent adrenaline chemical.
Yeah.
All right. At Wayne Pratt 08 wants to know, what are our thoughts on Batman at the end of the movies? Batman at the movies end. Love the beginning with the fear as a tool. We talked about this. Do you think that will continue even with his new mentality? How do you think he will continue to instill fear in the underworld and not in civilian Gotham?
I don't know, because I like how he how this one opened and the shadows part.
Yeah. I think that remains.
I hope that remains. Yeah.
I do think that remains. We talked about the bad guy. We just said, the bad guys of Gotham, he still will be in the shadows, but he's on his way to the good people, knowing that he's a good guy and he's got their back, as you say.
Yeah. So I don't know if I answered his question. So you did.
At Adam Ambro wants to know, Batman was fighting with cops and ran off. Okay, that's a great scene with Gordon and him. That's part of their relationship. You're going to punch me in the face. Okay. Yeah. Next time he's with the cops, he's arresting Maroni. That would be Falcone.
Yeah.
He's arresting Falcone and everything is fine between them. Was that because of those were the good cops? Was this ever resolved and I just missed it? I think they were the good cops, don't you?
Gordon
Yeah.
even says of like, not everybody works for you,
Yeah.
to where I think he rallied the
Yeah.
Gordon's pretty aware of some of the corrupt ones.
Yeah. And Gordon, clearly those good cops follow Gordon, and Gordon is allies with Batman. So there you have it, Uh, at Cody Draws, will we see a black and white release of the film? I have no idea.
You can do that yourself. Change
You-
your contrast on your TV. It's pretty simple.
Absolutely. That's what I was going to
There you
say.
go.
The same thing. You can do that yourself when it comes out on either HBO Max or when you get the Blu-ray, Cody. I get what you're
Great.
saying. Yeah. Do it like straight up noir, black and
Straight up
white, old
noir, yeah.
school. Yeah. Yeah. It's a good idea. At Teresa Batman. Question for Matt Reeves that I'm sending to BOF. Oh, you want me to answer for the great Matt Reeves?
Having lunch with them Thursday, Bill.
Okay, well then there you go.
There you go.
You got more connections than me. Considering the ending of the Batman, how do we strike a balance of the hope of Batman and him still beating criminals to a pulp in future films?
You have more moments like when he's carrying that person out of the arena, out of the garden. You have more of that. He's right there with
You have as much of
national-
that as you have him beating criminals to a pulp. Yes.
Mhm. You can find a good balance of two,
Mhm.
and you don't need a massive flooding disaster for it either. It can be small moments. I mean, he could
Mhm.
still do what he did, and maybe that's how they can show how he's evolving in the city's perception. Is you have a scene he fights off muggers and saves some person, but instead of like in this movie where the guy says, "Please don't hurt me," you have somebody that just says, "Thank you, Batman," or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I think that shows of like, oh, the good people aren't necessarily scared of him like they used to be. It's a small moment, but it's the point
Yeah.
across.
I don't think we're ever going to see this Batman ever not being in the shadows and still striking fear. I mean, that's what Batman's all about, striking fear in the
Yeah.
hearts of the bad guys.
It's not going to turn to 66 Batman.
No. At Scotty Wood asks, do you think we will see a new, more evolved bat suit the next go around? Also, do you think there will be more social playboy Bruce Wayne now that we've seen young, angry, brooding Bruce? Or is that Bruce needed in this universe? Bat suit, I'm sure we'll get I'm sure it'll evolve. I don't know if there's a Wayne, what do we do? There's not a Lucius Fox as far as we know. There's not a Q, right?
Mm-hmm.
For this Batman. So I like the idea of him making his own suits and his own stuff. I was gonna say suits and stuff at the same time, so I got stoots. But I think that he'll continue to tinker and improve his arsenal. Ron, what do you think?
I agree. I don't think he's going to change the chest plate at all, because that sucker saved his life plenty of times in the movie. I feel like that. I mean, it happens a lot where there's an evolution of the suit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what kind of changes, because I loved his Travis Bickle grappling gun deal, shooting up through his arm rather than pulling it off of his utility belt and shooting. I love that. So it's like, I love that to stay. I like the suit as a whole. I like how the suit looks. So
I
don't
love
know
the
what
suit.
improvements. I don't know what improvement, and which is funny, because it begins. You asked me when I left, and you'd say, "Hey, what do they need to change about the suit?" I would have told you nothing, because I love that suit too.
Mhm.
And then the changes they made, the next one is being able to turn your head, and it was like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense. That makes total sense." Okay, so I don't know what this one's lacking that he would need a change, but it'll probably make sense when they do it.
It's very functional, because I was watching a video with Rob Pattinson before we came on. He talking about, it was about the suit, and that he was, I could actually jump in it and move freely.
Somersaults, I thought.
Yeah.
At some point he said he did somersaults.
And I love the cowl. I love the leather of it. I love how you hear him when he turns his head, you hear the leather,
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't want to change drastically. I don't want some high-tech suit. I really don't,
Mhm.
And as far as Bruce Wayne, I don't know if young angry Bruce Wayne exists anymore after the Batman. I think he's, that's part of the arc.
Mhm.
I don't know if we'll get Playboy Bruce Wayne. Maybe that's something Alfred says, okay, you kind of like in Begins, okay, people are going to start putting two together. You got to, create this public persona. But I do think we get Bruce Wayne being more like the Bella Real says I'd like for you to become more involved in the community like your parents were. I'm paraphrasing because you don't do
Yeah.
anything. She says, so he's out there Batmaning it up. But
So we got the Playboy kind of buffoon from Dark Knight trilogy done perfectly. I mean, we didn't get a ton in Batman vs Superman, just like a little small part at Lex's place. So but I think like the animated series, I like that version of Bruce because it's kind of like a little, some of those parts is like, oh God, when Bale was playing the buffoon Playboy. Animated series, I like how Bruce Wayne was the philanthropist and everything. Yes, somehow people still didn't put two and two together. But I almost feel like maybe lean a little bit more that way. Because it'd be too aware. Like, I think Matt Reeves is very aware and he wouldn't try to do buffoon Playboy because it'd feel like that's been done. We need to do something different. Just my thoughts.
Yeah.
So I know.
Yeah. And you know what? To be honest, you really don't. You don't see a lot of Playboy Bruce Wayne in the comics nowadays. That's something kind of, you see that, like back in the day. Yeah. Bruce has become more of a Bruce Wayne. Public Bruce Wayne is more of a philanthropist, right? In the comics. And
I think so.
I mean, you saw some of that, but you don't really get that Playboy aspect. That's kind of I was going to say Zorro, but did you get there was a Zorro comment in the movie,
Yeah.
which is a little nod to Zorro and Batman's, Zorro being one of the influences on Batman. A couple more and we'll get out of here.
Okay.
At Taylor_Camp, with Lieutenant Gordon rising to power, an open DA spot, and Mayor Bella Real seemingly trending pro Batman, do you think it's time we see Harvey Bullock on the big screen to be the anti-Batman voice, still not won over? There were shades of him in Commissioner Savage. That's a good question.
Give us Harvey Bullock.
Taylor, I thought you were going to ask if we would see Harvey Dent, and you pull out Bullock. Well done, sir. Great point. Yeah. You still have to have someone. You can't have the entire leadership mechanism of Gotham being all pro Batman, right? It's got to be someone. Still, some people that are maybe not anti, but are leery of Batman or suspicious.
Sure.
Bullock would be great. Yeah.
Yeah. He's overdue.
I think, Lieutenant Gordon rising to power. I think it's a matter of time before he becomes Commissioner Gordon. Open DA spot. Come on, Harvey Dent. Get that promotion from assistant DA or run for office. You're laboring there. You get one good assistant DA. All the rest of them are down at the 44 below. Run for district attorney in Gotham.
Yep.
At Patty the Bat, with hope being the ending message of the film, do you think the sequel will get a bit of a tonal shift? Sure. Still think it's going to be dark. But yeah.
Based on how the look of Gotham was, don't change that. But I mean, depending on what the story is, I mean, this one also was darker because it was a serial killer. So that's just gonna bring darkness too. But underlying hope, yeah, I agree.
At Wayne Pratt 08. Oh, I think we answered Wayne's questions. Okay. Sorry, Wayne, we got you. At Native Storm, Batsuit questions. What does he carry in the thigh holster? Ron, you have an answer to that?
In the thigh holster?
He has a holster on his thigh that's strapped to his thigh. It's like almost like a gun.
Oh, it's a blaster like Han Solo, obviously.
Oh, okay. All right, there you go.
You didn't have that scene in your screenings?
I had
Batman shot first.
I had a Dick Shoes moment. They had technical difficulties during that.
I can't piece together what.
I did not see him take anything out of that.
Mm-mm.
It's not a gun because he doesn't use guns, and that's made clear. No guns. That's your thing, man.
Yeah, that's your thing.
So it's some kind of contraption he came up with.
The art of the Batman book comes out April 19th, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that will have an answer.
Okay.
A lot of times in that stuff, they break down like gadgets and little trinkets and the specifics and stuff. Maybe that'll have the answer.
What are the metal rod like things on his arms? Gauntlets. That's armor.
Around his forearm.
The forearm. They're strapped on there. That's armor.
See, I thought that was for the grapnel launch, because when he shoots, the one shot when he's the elevator shot to the 44 below, and that one, it's out of focus.
So
his arm comes. I think that is
so the wire is in those. You think?
That's what I think.
Okay, because you do see him. I mean, you see him use them as armor while he's fighting. There's even shots come off of it.
Almost like small metal, like posts.
Is
what they seem like. And so, I don't know. I just thought that those were the grapnels, and then we get a couple of the shots of those.
I think
he breaks into Edward's apartment. We see it. I mean, granted, the end,
maybe it's both. I mean, it clearly
is
is used as armor. It's sometimes. I mean, you're going to have armor on your forearms, and it's also maybe that's where the grappling line is stored as well. So could be both. But you're right. Art of the Batman will probably solve that, right?
To me, that also explains of how, if you ever thought about how does he have endless amounts of grapnel and stuff, but if he has them around his arm, I mean, he's going out loaded every night with like 20 or something to use if he needs to. So that's just where my mind went, and I've settled on.
All right. At All Things Super, how do you two feel about the way Reeves and company use the no kill rule in the film? This seems to be something many films get wrong about the character, and I was thrilled to see it implemented here. I'm with you. All Things Super. I would say that I could debate Batman, quote unquote, killing in the Dark Knight trilogy, but that's for another podcast. But yeah, it's clear here he doesn't kill. It's, even like we just said, no guns. He also said that in Dark Knight Rises, no guns, no killing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, now he beats the shit out of people, right?
He does.
Okay.
But I don't think there's anything that's abrasively he's killing anybody. All the Riddler goons at the end, you could argue a couple got shot. They got shot from their own people. Batman knocks them off the ledge to where they're hanging by their gear. At that point, it's like just waiting for the police to come get them. So I think it was handled well without really trying to be like, do you get that, audience? Batman does not kill, like, without being too blunt about it. We got the point.
All right. Couple more from the Facebook group. Craig Harlow. Shout out to Craig Harlow. Do you think the man who was talking to Bruce at the memorial is Joe Chill? Well, he's a joke. I mean, a joker. He's a Riddler goon.
Can be if you want it to be. The guy obviously has something against rich folk, higher folk, but he talks about his daughter. He says right before, he's talking about him. He's talking out loud to himself. He's, never gave my daughter a chance or something like that. Something about his daughter. But I don't know. Can be Joe Chill if you want it to be, I guess. I don't think so, though.
Does Joe Chill existing matter if, well, you know what? They left the Wayne murders. They really left it ambiguous who was behind it. Alfred says it, he said, Alfred said like Falcone probably did it, but it could have been some random thug. So Joe Chill could be a random thug, or could he be a hitman for Falcone, So that's kind of one of those things. It can be whatever you want, but I don't think he's specifically Joe Chill. He likes the Riddler though. Jeremy Wyatt. Shout out to Jeremy Wyatt. I would imagine a sequel will be officially announced soon. If the over and under is set at July 2025, what are you taking? I'm taking, my prediction is summer 2025. So I'm gonna say it's a push, Jeremy, because I think this goes back to summer as it was originally intended to be, which was a June release. So I'll say summer. I think it's June or July.
That probably, to me, that probably makes the most sense. That's not what I want. I want the sequel in 4 months.
4 months,
but that's not going to happen I want it to happen in 4 months. But
okay.
I think I'm realistic. It's not going to happen. But something that has an advantage of March is, I think originally Doctor Strange 2 was supposed to come out in March, and then they pushed that back 2 months. And Batman didn't have any competition its first weekend, no competition its second weekend. And I think the third weekend, so this upcoming weekend now, I don't remember. I think that there's like the Sandra Bullock, Channing Tatum comedy movie. I think that's the first thing that it's ever going to face. Whereas the summer, it's week. Every week is a new big movie. So I think it had an upper hand in the fact of being in March because it didn't have competition.
I'll say, Jeremy, if this thing kicks ass, which it is, but it really kicks ass, and it's a March release, they may say, you know what? Let's go with March for this stuff, for this series. So,
and I say the summer part of having competition. Well, Batman is also Batman. To where other studios I could see being like, oh wait, hold on, Batman's coming out then. Well, we got to move because it's Batman. The only one that could maybe stand its ground would be Spider-Man. So that's just where my mind goes. Of there's more competition around in the summer, but that just seems like that's the most likely.
Jeremy also asks what we think about where Bruce is going. His persona, we talked about that. So last one, Ryan Fritsch has 2. There have been some complaints about the Alfred character not having enough to do in the Batman. Okay, I have not heard that. Have you?
I may have seen something about it.
Was a lot of his part written to solely work to fit Andy Serkis's schedule? I have no idea. Or was Alfred intentionally always meant to be a small part with some serious gravity? I think Alfred was written exactly the way he was supposed to be in the film. It's part of Bruce Wayne's arc, and this film was meant to focus completely on Batman. For the most, it focuses completely on Batman, And I think that part of the reason we don't see Alfred as much is that it's because the state Bruce Wayne is in this film. We've talked about the Alfred Bruce relationship today, and so I'll say listen to that part. That'll give you my answer, Brian.
I don't think that Matt Reeves would work it around the actor's schedule. Filming around the actor's schedule, sure, but the actual part itself, no. I think what we got of Alfred was exactly what he intended.
Yes, I'm with you. And his second question, with the Penguin and Arkham Asylum coming to HBO Max, each with a very different style and genre fit than the Batman, does the sequel to the Batman stray a little further away from the noir mystery solving theme to something else that fits whatever characters Reeves decides to use? Probably. I don't think the detective aspect of Batman is ever going to go away. Not with Reeves, not with this Batman.
I don't think so. That's what's interesting about where he'd go for a sequel, leaning so heavily in this. And all signs point to Reeves put everything that he wanted and desired into this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So to be asked to come back for a second one, I don't know if you ever came across that James Wan, he doesn't do thirds in his movie series, because for him, he kind of feels like between the first two, he's done everything that he is passionate can think about.
Okay.
So then he seeks out somebody else. And that actually makes a lot of sense, I think. Because yeah, you'd say Reeves he's a lifelong fan. He did what he wanted to do for this movie. And they come back and say more, then it's like, well, I don't want to just repeat what I did last time.
Yeah.
But I did everything that I've wanted to do on that one.
Yeah.
So then how far do we, okay, and then all this work, the noir detective story really worked. So we've got to incorporate that, but that's not going to be the whole movie genre, and then finding that balance of, okay, well then what approach do we take then? And you saw that with Nolan with his three movies. It was like a different style of movie for all three.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just, that's where my mind has gone, is I wonder what approach, what vibe, what genre, all that can be seen for the second one. I agree with you. Detective aspect will still be there for sure.
100%. Yeah. 100%.
But you can do that in any genre.
That's interesting about Juan. I didn't know that about him, because he did the first two Conjuring films.
He did the first two Conjurings. He did the first two Insidious.
Okay.
I think he said he wouldn't do an Aquaman 3. So yeah, it's like it makes sense. I mean, just like with all opinions.
Wow,
so
that's interesting because like I couldn't see Nolan doing that, but he's like, okay, I did what I want to do, but I have no problem turning over creative the creative being charged that what I want to say turn over being in charge of the creative aspect of a film to someone else.
Yeah. I don't,
and it's always, I think it's a protege or a partner or someone that he's aligned
Insidious,
with.
one of his best friends, I think, Lee Winnell. And so basically he gave the series the keys to his best friend. So yeah, like you just said, of a close friend.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, when do you think we hear about a sequel, whether it's announced, development, like officially, not behind the scenes?
When will we get Blu-ray?
I've heard June.
I'd say around there.
If we hear then, is there any possibility you think it films next year, release 2024?
I doubt it. I would love it. But you know what? I think we're going to get those HBO Max things like in 23, 24. And then I think we get Batman in 25. That's just me guessing, but maybe,
yeah,
Remember, Reese is going to take a nap, so it depends on how long that nap is. I don't think he'll do another film. He's got so many producing irons in the fire and stuff that he's got all kind of things going on that kind of scratches that itch for him. I think he's really.
I think he is 100% telling the truth when he said stuff in interviews, and people have asked about with sequels, and he says, "Well, we're gonna wait on this one. Like, this one hasn't even come out yet." But 5 years on this movie. But I mean, granted, that first like 6 months was dealing with War for the Planet of the Apes. So let's just say 4. I
Hell,
just
almost
feel like he has
damn near. It's almost like a year because War didn't come out till like August, and he had been hired for like early
February.
January, February.
Yeah,
and so he went to work. He really went to work, and on it late that year and the beginning of 18. But
I would just feel, especially with COVID shutdowns and stuff.
Yeah.
While filming, and there's been a lot of time, I would just feel like he has an idea of what he'd like to do.
Yeah. I think,
and is that further along than anything's been said?
He said we have ideas,
So I wouldn't want.
Him and Pattinson have talked about it, where they want to go.
Perfect.
Patton's got that cat got all kind of ideas. He'll be talk specifics about comics and all kind of stuff.
My question, since I didn't write in, how good was he as Batman?
You may have a hot take.
Good.
A hot take. Is this hot? Would this even be a hot take?
All right. Yeah, go ahead.
Best Batman performance of any live action Batman film.
All right.
Best characterization of Batman in any live action Batman film.
Love Bale.
Love Bale. You know what? Here's a PSA. PSA real quick. I can love the Batman. I do. It may become my favorite Batman movie. Pattinson is already my favorite Batman. That doesn't mean that I don't absolutely adore and love the Dark Knight trilogy and Christian Bale.
Hey now, come on, Bill. Calm down.
And you know what? I also love Batman 89.
Yeah.
And you know what? I really, really, really like Batman Forever. That's okay, right?
I think so. Yeah.
I don't have to crap all over what came before, right?
That's right.
I even say this.
Blasphemy, you're gonna get canceled.
Here's another one. You ready for this?
Okay.
I was ecstatic when Ben Affleck got cast as Batman. I wanted him to direct a solo Batman movie. And here's this. This is really I'm really getting crazy here.
Oh shit. It's getting out of control.
I don't really like BVS or the characterization of Batman, but I'm really happy for those who do. Can you believe that?
That's pretty wild. Whew. Man, you haven't been drinking yet, have you?
No, it's not 11 a.m. yet.
You're getting crazy. I was gonna say I gotta give a little bit of time. As much as I love Bale and right behind him is Keaton, gotta give it some more time. But I can tell you right away that Pattinson is definitely in the conversation.
Yeah,
as my favorite Batman performance, and like you just said, you're talking to somebody who likes Batman versus Superman.
Yeah.
Like all of that stuff, and yet still, and that's why I always sometime.
Here's another one. You're gonna lock me up in Arkham.
I'm getting ready to hang up. Okay, all right, go ahead.
The people like you that like BVS, I'm happy they got Zack Snyder Justice League.
Oh.
I'm happy for those sort of people.
Whoa. Load off your mind.
It's just
you feel relieved.
Can you? That's okay, right? I can think all of that and still love the Batman, right?
You knew all that, and you said that to me, and you still invited me in your house.
Yeah.
So that was pretty. Yeah, good times.
And I like Adam West.
Oh yeah, pure West.
All right. Anything else? I think we covered the Batman pretty good. I know that Garrett and y'all are going to do more shows on the Batman on Film podcast. I'm sure we'll do shows on this social hour about the Batman, but I think part 1 and part 2, we covered it pretty good.
I think so too.
And
maybe I'm biased, but
we cover it. It's a different show than the podcast. So check out both.
Yeah. Garrett does a great job on the podcast. And then he also is generous and asked me if I would like to participate, in which I do. And then Haas also has he's a very intelligent man with great thoughts. So yeah, I thought that discussion was different than what you and I had talked about, but obviously related about the Batman. And my final thoughts are that the Batman's awesome. You've seen it, go see it again. If you've seen it again, go see it again. Just keep watching it because it's great. 5 times in, and I took the fiance to go watch it. Only her second time, but that's saying something too. That she was completely down because I said, "Hey, I'll go see it earlier by myself, and we can have our day." And she said, "No, I'll go with you." So okay. And yeah, still really worked for her.
Did she
dinner,
like a
whole
lot
dinner
of
afterward?
So like
was
with
all about talking Batman, and that's
like-
not on me.
yeah. So like a lot of
She-
people, was she like the second time around was like, yeah.
She could
Not, and I don't mean that like it's better. It is, but it's just, you know what I mean?
here. Well, listen to this, because she said first viewing, because you don't know what's gonna happen. It's a little bit more tense.
Yeah.
She could almost like breathe a little more.
Okay. That's what I'm, yeah.
Because knows what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And that makes total sense.
Yeah.
But our whole dinner conversation following up was all about that. And it wasn't because I'm sitting there saying, "Hey, come on, we're gonna talk about this whole time." It's just
Yeah.
her actively asking questions and stuff, and big fan from there, like from that perspective and that angle. So I mean, multiple viewings, it helps the movie. And that's going in as you asked me after my first viewing, I said it's really, really good.
Yeah.
4 viewings later, and I'm like, I love that movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Initial grade was an A. Probably throw an A+ in there now.
Oh,
Is that a huge deal? Like,
yeah.
No, but you understand what I mean by that, of like, you rewatch the same movie, eventually you start to look at the cracks, and you start to get a little bit more like, oh, okay, waving in and out this part. And when I've had to run to the bathroom twice out of the 5 viewings, and it was always like, shit, what part do I go? And there is no part.
I did that yesterday. Yeah.
There's no part that I'm like, okay, I can leave now. It's good.
It's real good. I've liked it each time more. Micah Ramey. His goal is to see it 10 times in the theater. So that's a challenge.
What's he up to?
I think he's got 5 or 6.
5.
I know he's going today
for a week and a half.
Yeah, I know he's going today. So this could be 6 today. He may have. It's right around there.
And you know what Alexander Knox would say? 6 is good.
Yeah. 6. Yeah. 6 is good.
6 is good.
6 is good. You know what Keaton would say? 220, 221, whatever it takes. I'm going to go this week to get in my IMAX before it goes away. I am going to predict that will not be my last screening.
Sure.
And on the big screen, the theater. So
I'm going to give it's probably going to be a little bit of time now, unless somebody springs on me and is like, hey, I haven't seen it, I'm going to go see it. It's probably going to be a little while, and then I'll be like, I've got to see it one more time in a theater before it's out of theaters.
Yeah.
So I'm at 5. I will probably end up at 6 when all is said and done.
Because here's what's going on in my head. Is like, I'm going, there's a freaking solo Batman film
Mhm.
at theaters right now.
Mm-hmm.
I got to go.
Mm-hmm.
I got to go. I know I've gone before multiple times. I got to go. Okay. Speaking, got to go. Let's get out of here. Plug something.
I gotta go. I would like to plug. We already mentioned BOF podcast with Garrett Grav and Ryan Haas. It's dropped. That was a great conversation, a fun conversation. So check that out. Check out Bill. You were kind to invite me on your conversation with Michael Uslan, the great Michael Uslan.
Oh yeah.
On a social hour.
Yeah.
Please track that down and listen, because not because you want to listen to me talk. You want to listen to Michael Uslan talk. And you could,
Yes, you do.
You and I said as soon as we were done, I was like, I could have talked to him all day. Endless questions. And yeah, he's great to listen to. As far as my posts on Batman on Film, reviews and such, other interviews are posted there. Follow on Twitter at Lauer_Ryan. Lauer spelled like lower, but also my podcast, the Batman Book Club. New episode dropped today with Bill Ramey. There's been a lot of me and Bill.
That will be on Batman on Film as soon as we finish recording here.
Excellent.
And then this will be on this afternoon probably. But yeah, The Imposter. Cool. Batman the Imposter.
Yeah, and I'm biased, but I thought our conversation was pretty great. Batman comes up a lot in that too.
It does.
Who'd have thought? And then if that's this year's Batman Book Club bracket challenge. The bracket's out. If you want to participate, go to Twitter at the Batman BC. Gotten some great feedback of positioning and names not included on that, so that's pretty fun. But most people are having a lot of fun with it, and that's all I try to do. So there you go.
Okay, just go to Batman on Film, batman-on-film.com. You'll find everything. One thing I want to note is that I am not replacing. There's going to be a second YouTube channel for Batman on Film that will be just podcast and any shows that we do, any video shows, blogs we used to call them. The podcast will be on there. The other one, the original, will be trailers and clips, preview clips, things like that, historical things like, the Batman 89 trailers there, stuff like that. So if you go to Batman on Film, you can you can link to it. Please follow that YouTube channel. There's a new show coming. I'll probably make it part of the social hour, but its subtitle is called Announcer Rachel Reads Bat Comics. And Ryan, she read year 1.
First time, right?
First time, and that's first comic book period she's ever read in her life.
Wow.
She read it in one day, and I'm talking read it in like a couple hours.
It obviously worked, because what most people can't see is that this whole time you and I have been talking, she's in the background reading all your comics.
Yes.
So, all right.
So
that was her gateway.
That will be something a little different to have that point of view on Batman comics.
Common folk. Their opinion on
the
Batman
common folk. All right, so Ryan, I'm Bill. Thanks for listening. You'll see the Batman again. It's awesome, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Batman on Film Social Hour, Jett's official BOF podcast and vlog. Follow Jett on Twitter at Batman on Film. For BOF news only on Twitter, follow at the Batman on Film. For Jett and everyone at BOF, I'm announcer Rachel. Authoritative, definitive, the original Batman on Film.